And we welcome you back to America Talks Live, where you can get in on the discussion at 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. Displaying all sorts of patience, waiting to offer his comments. From Glen Burnie, Maryland, Scott is on the phone. Hi, Scott.
Hi, how you doing, JD?
Fine, sir. What's on your mind?
Actually, I was on earlier when Ellis, your guy, was talking.
Yep.
And it was about ID laws. And my comment there is the reason they don't want IDs is so that non-citizens can vote. Quite frankly, that's how the Democrats do this. They bus people around. You don't need an ID. Come on in, vote. And for a citizen, that upsets me.
I think it upsets most right-minded folks because, as you know, you talk about the ultimate voter suppression is when your vote is canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting in the first place. A very valid and timely observation, Scott, and we appreciate the phone call. Now, again to repeat, the news that just broke earlier this hour. Let's take a look at the tweet from Chairman Jason Chaffetz of the House Government Reform and Oversight Committee. It reads as follows: the FBI director just informed me, quote, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation, close quote, case reopened. That refers to Hillary Clinton, the probe of the Democrat nominee reopening 11 days prior to Election Day. A whole lot to talk about with our next guest, political strategist and TV and radio commentator Seton Motely, the founder and president of Less Government, a nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing the power of government. Seton, we really appreciate your time here on America Talks Live. And before we get to just a masterpiece of a column you wrote the other day, I want to talk to you about this breaking news that the FBI is reopening their investigation of Hillary. What's your reaction to that?
They must be thoroughly embarrassed that WikiLeaks has outed them as hacks for not indicting her in the first place. That's my initial reaction.
And it is a valid reaction.
They've been shamed into doing this by all the evidence rolling out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
And not only shame there, but what struck me, and I was discussing it with our panel before the break, Seton, you may have seen the video. There is James Comey, director of the FBI, testifying to a committee and almost plaintively saying, I believe it was the House Judiciary Committee, saying, please don't call us weasels. Well, I've sat here in this chair and said, hey, you know what, Jim? You're a weasel. And I'm not saying it's my criticism, but in addition to WikiLeaks and the evidence, there has been scorn heaped upon Director Comey, most notably by unnamed sources we believe to be veteran agents with the FBI. You add to that, Seton, this news about Terry McAuliffe, and then earlier today we heard Hillary Clinton attended a fundraiser for the wife of the now assistant FBI director who led the initial Hillary Clinton investigation. His wife, Dr. Jill McCabe, was running for the Virginia State Senate. She was unsuccessful with that, but by appearances, it looks like Hillary and Terry McAuliffe and Clinton Inc. was successful temporarily at influencing the investigation. So now all of that reopens it. Go ahead, sir.
Well, and an important point is, Terry McAuliffe directed more than $400,000 to her campaign. Now, when we're used to talking about federal races where that's not a whole lot of money. In a state Senate race, 400 grand's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are little sections of Virginia. 400 grand's a lot of money for a state Senate race. So, yeah, you would think that held some sway with her husband at the FBI. Yeah, look, this is you know, the elites like to make fun of West Virginia and Kentucky for being incestuous. DC is incestuous. I mean, this is unbelievably interwoven, and it's like a thicket of cronyism. It's just unbelievable. And yeah, look, you can't walk like a weasel and quack like a weasel and then complain when people call you a weasel.
Friendly amendment. Maybe it's squeal like a weasel, do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm paraphrasing the duck
I know
thing.
the old duck routine. Sure, see.
If I show up everywhere in a blue shirt with a badge and people keep running up to me reporting crimes, Look, just because I'm dressed like a cop doesn't mean but if you look like a cop, they're going to talk to you like you're a cop. If you look like a weasel, they're going to call you a weasel.
Sure. Hey, let's, speaking of calls, we've got one from Venice, Florida at 1-877-Newsmax. Tony is on the line. Tony, welcome to our discussion with Seton Motely.
How you doing, JD? I appreciate being on. I just want to make a couple of comments about that Clinton. How could she possibly run a race behind such liberal thinking of the media where there is a shot that she's going to win, being the traitor that she is?
You know, she is.
And also,
go ahead. Yes, sir. Very quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as far as that, Biden and wants to take Trump out behind the gym. I'm 77 years old, and I'll take Biden out behind the gym if you could just switch channels.
I bet you would, brother, and I appreciate the call, Tony, and we very much appreciate your contribution to today's program. So this continues. We'll continue to monitor all the what D.C. was built on a swamp, and I guess the most apt metaphor, Seton, is Mr. Trump saying it's time to drain the swamp.
And one of the many myriad reasons for why, thus I keep saying thus Donald Trump, as we find, this happened, thus Donald Trump. This happened, thus Donald Trump. The fact that the Clintons are still viable politically speaks to the complete fecklessness of the opposition party for the last 20 years by not taking them out with all the evidence against them. The fact that they still exist speaks to the fecklessness of the Republican Party, thus Donald Trump.
Well, again, the only amendment I would offer, as a member of Congress, we delivered articles of impeachment because Bill Clinton had committed perjury. Now, the guys over in the Senate had decided it was a foregone conclusion, and the trial, sadly, I think history will show, was essentially a show trial. Now, 2 minutes
you were
left.
In Congress. I recall a quote from an unnamed senator that said, you could have evidence in that room that Bill Clinton murdered somebody and you wouldn't get 67 votes.
As a matter of fact, I remember the same article and citation, Seton. Speaking of articles, very quickly, you wrote a masterpiece about Elon Musk and all this dough he's gotten from the government, and the press says, oh, he's an inventor, he's an entrepreneur. What's your take on Elon Musk?
Well, he is an inventor. He co-founded, along with Peter Thiel and others, PayPal, which is an online payment system where you don't need a credit card. You deposit money and it goes out. It was so good that eBay bought it for billions of dollars. Thiel and Musk then took very different paths. Thiel took his money and became a venture capitalist. And he's invested, by the way, he invested in a little social media site we now know as Facebook. His $500,000 became $500 million.
Whoa.
He started LinkedIn. He's been he's got a very good nose of, okay, I'm going to take my private money, invest it in private sector
But with
business.
the 30 seconds that remain, tell me what Musk did and why it's different than what problem you have.
Musk got in line at the government trough, and he's collected more than, almost probably by now, it was $4.9 billion in government handouts as of middle of last year, so it's probably over $5 billion now. And I'm sorry, but he wasn't the first person to do that. That is, going to the government trough and getting government money is not incredibly innovative.
And that is a very valid point that you make in incredible fashion in your recent article, Seton Motely. Hey, do me a favor. Promise you'll come back and visit again real soon, okay? We love having you.
It would be a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Great to have Seton. And when we come back, a look at this day in history and Donald Trump from one of his rallies yesterday in Ohio, plus more.